Neon Genesis Evangelion director Hideaki Anno, hope I'm pronouncing the name right, doesn't believe creating for the global market is the way to go. I'm sorry, but the audience will have to be the one to adapt. Man, you know how refreshing this is to hear? Just a sigh of relief and a sea full of everyone thinking that appealing to the global audience is the way to go. Because as the saying goes, if you try to please everyone, you please no one. And most of all, it's refreshing to hear this from a Japanese creator, OG at that, when the anime industry is facing so much pressure nowadays to globalize itself with the immense popularity it has garnered in recent years. It reminds me of when Sakurai, creator of Super Smash Bros., said Japanese devs should make games for the Japanese demographic and not try to appeal to the Western taste.
Bingo! Yahtzee!
And me, using common sense, which is severely lacking nowadays, says, yes, that's what makes your games and entertainment special overall. It's different. Now, before we get into this article, I want to point out how there's people who will try to fight against this, like it's taboo or offensive for Japanese creators to make entertainment for Japan and not everyone else. Like this back and forth display on Twitter recently occurring with this post saying, Japanese media is made for a Japanese audience. It's not made for you. With this user responding, I have been consuming Japanese media since the 90s. If I have an honest conversation with a Japanese person, they would be cool with it and would disagree with this statement. So no, you are wrong on this. Which I'm sure the Japanese fans weren't mad at the Dragon Quest remake having westernized standards imposed on their entertainment with foolish body type A and B replacing male and female, and also having outfits censored for the women characters, which is a desecration to its legacy. Yes, I'm sure they don't mind all of this Western elitist politically correct ideology imposed on what they enjoy, with even the creators speaking out about how stupid all of this is. Which gives credence to this response. I'm not wrong. Japanese media is literally made for a Japanese audience. I don't care how long you consumed it. It's simply not made with you in mind. That's why it needs to be translated or, God forbid, localized for you to even fathom it.
Thank you!
Now, onto this article. When asked how these changes are impacting the way Japanese content is made and distributed, Anno remarked that anime and film studios haven't made any conscious changes in the past years, even though the environment itself has slightly changed. I personally never made anything with the overseas audience in mind. I can only make domestic stuff. Production companies are quick to say, think about the overseas market, but personally, that's not my goal, he explained. And this is where longevity is truly to be had. Yes, there would be short-term gain in appealing to the global market as production companies are pressuring them to do so, but with that comes an erosion of your personal touch, your voice, and cultural identity, which in the long run will cause you to lose far more than you've ever gained. And this is where the creator meets the out-of-touch studio exec. One is driven by dollar signs and short-sightedness, while the other is driven by passion, creativity, and vision. My stance is simply, it first needs to be a work that will be well received and found interesting in Japan, but if by any chance people overseas also find it interesting, I'd be grateful for that. Which is basically common sense, but in today's landscape is considered genius rhetoric. Make your art for the core audience and whoever else joins in is considered a bonus. Anno mentions that working on Evangelion thrice upon a time, he wasn't considering the overseas market at all. Apparently, he decided to produce the film independently, which is very impressive, because it meant no one else could interfere, and he was ready to take full responsibility for it regardless of how well it performed financially. And this, I will always respect with any creator, sacrificing their livelihood to put it all on the line to produce something they believe in, knowing their vision will not be compromised, and in this case led to one of the most impactful anime to ever touch the industry. Anno explains that making a film for a non-Japanese audience comes with some considerable difficulties, especially the language barrier. Works that are made through a Japanese thought process can only be understood in Japanese. Film has both visual and sound elements, so compared to other forms of storytelling, the language barrier is not that. However, lines in the script are still in Japanese, and the drama is achieved through the thoughts and feelings the characters experience in Japanese. Which is why it's truly disrespectful when people defend this horrendous insertion in Japanese art.
Hey, bitches and bros and non-binary hoes!
as this user often does, promoting more of it to be done. Personally, I want to hear the author's true voice when watching anime, not some butchered, fucked up version done by a localizer to fulfill their own ego, rather than honoring the work they've been assigned with.
Damn straight.
Truthfully, the only people who should be working on translating Japanese media are those that, even if given the permission by the creators themselves to translate how they see fit, they would still choose not to, seeing it as offensive to ever dare change the dialogue by inserting their own cultural language, like, oh, this is how I talk, versus seeing it as a duty to translate it as accurate and true to the writer's work. The Evangelion director remarks that such works can be well received overseas as well, given that the audience understands the intentions and nuances of the narrative expressed in Japanese. However, he also says that as a creator, he can't accommodate his work to the audience. I'm sorry, but the audience will have to be the one to adapt.
Message!
And I couldn't have said it any better. And I hope this attitude spreads throughout Japan. I know a lot of times there's this pressure to accommodate and be polite amongst Japanese culture, don't cause conflict and stir up the plot, but they need to recognize there are those who would love to see this director's attitude be done away with and have Japanese media be completely diluted of any cultural identity by elites and fake fan posers alike. I don't care if there are jokes that are Japanese specific and certain nuances in Japanese slang way of speaking. If I don't get it, that's on me and up to me to have the will to further understand it, because if anything, it makes watching the anime that much more immersive. Film isn't a medium that accommodates its content for the viewer. That's why the audience has to trust the creators and what is interesting, and that's why I think it's completely fine to keep production domestic, he says. Even Ghibli, Miyazaki stick to domestic production, and I'm sure they don't even think about the overseas market. So basically, I applaud this creator and others who think like them. You see this with From Software making games for their target hardcore audience instead of casual fans, journalists who find them too hard to play and want a difficulty setting that accommodates their lack of willing to adapt, and the return has led them to great success. If you create a genuinely good product, the audience that's into it will find it. As he says later, a part of why Japanese works haven't been able to make it to the West until now is because we were kind of bad at selling them. But the problem with that is now they're trying to sell it to people who don't have a natural interest in it. It's either bandwagon fans or influencers looking to further their brand appeal. True fans in the West have always organically sought out Japanese works without it being sold to us. We liked it for what it was and nothing more. We adapted. Versus now, you have those who don't want to adapt, but tear, strip, and censor everything out of what makes it special. Which is why I hope this director's attitude will spread and be adopted by all creators. But that's all I have for this video. Tell me what you think in the comment section below. Also, if you haven't checked out my music, links in the description. If you love those Samurai Champloo lo-fi mellow boom bap vibes, then my music is definitely for you. And if you want to support the content I create, consider joining my channel. Becoming a member is much appreciated. See you in the next video. Free think. Peace.